Hey Wargamers, recently I played in a 1500 point tournament at a gaming convention called CotN in the North. It's held outside Minneapolis, Minnesota, and I just wanted to share with you how my list performed. This is the list, as well as a few other things about the tournament. So basic army overview, tournament recap type thing. So before we get into that though, thanks for watching. Let me know what you think about the list or if you have any questions in the comments below. And yeah, let's get on with it. So CotN in the North is a tabletop RPG type of gaming convention. You can kind of think of it as like a mini Gen Con. And they have a lot of different events there. When I went, it was really fun, but I only got to go on the last day of the event, which meant that I only had one opportunity to play in a 40K event. They had a doubles tournament that I did not participate in, but they did have this 1500 point tournament that I got in on, and it was a lot of fun. Basically, the idea of that tournament is to be a little bit more friendly, not hyper competitive. So it's not an ITC event or anything like that. They restricted your army to, of course, 1500 points, but it had to be comprised of a CAD, and then you had the option of taking an allied detachment from a different faction. So you couldn't do any type of special formations, so you couldn't do like Riptide Wing or anything like that. It was just CAD and allied detachments, which was refreshing and a little bit nostalgic for the past couple of years. It's nice to see things that were not just Decurion style detachments and mix and match as much as you want, something with a little bit more structure. So that was cool. Overall, the tournament was a lot of fun. I had a great time. And if you guys are in the Midwest, I strongly encourage you to check out CotN in the North and participate in their 40K events next year. So I'll put a link to that in the description below too, so you can stay up to date with that in the future. But all right, enough chat. What was the list? Well, so I had a buff commander. So you had command and control node, multi-spectrum sensor suite, iridium armor, shield generator, stims, drone controller, and two marker drones. For my troops choices, I took 2 units of crisis suits. So this is a 5-man crisis suit unit with 2 missile pods each, as well as target locks. And in that unit, there was 5 additional marker lights. My second troops choice was 4 plasma rifle crisis suits. So they each had 2 plasma rifles each. My elite slot was a Ghazghkull, and then 2 almost identical Riptides with Ion Accelerator, Fusion Blasters, Stims, and Early Warning Override. They also, this one over here had the Earthcast Pilot Array, and I should mention that my Ghazghkull here too also had Early Warning Override. So Interceptor. And then for the last little bit of my list, I took a sniper drone team, which normally I wouldn't take, but given the relatively friendly atmosphere of the tournament, I decided that this would be a great time to pull out a unit that I wouldn't normally take. And you could kind of say that about the plasma suits too, but I don't get to use sniper drones that often, and this was a great opportunity to do it, so I was happy to bring them. Also, I got to use my pinup girl as the marksman, which was great. Yeah, so that's the list. The basic idea, of course, is that the buff commander joins this unit here. So they have 7 marker lights, and then the missile pods can target lock off to different units. Overall, the list performed decently. I did get a lot. I got 3 real good games in because the tournament was only 3 games. But each game was great. I had a lot of fun, and it was the first tournament that I had really participated in years. So I did go to one tournament at a friendly local gaming store a few months ago, but as far as a larger scale tournament, this was the first one that I had participated in a couple years. So I was happy to dust off my dice for it. Yeah, so the first match was against Grey Knights and Marines, and I ended up getting tabled. I had some real bad positioning, and the Grey Knight player basically brought up his Death Star unit with Terminators and then a few different independent characters, brought them up, gave Infinity right in front of my units, and broke them off to attack everything, and everything died in combat, more or less. So that was that. Relatively rough defeat for me, but again, it was a good game. I realized that Grey Knights are not as big of a pushover as I used to think that they were. Or maybe I'm more of a pushover than I thought. But yeah, so lost that one. Moved on to my second game. It was Hammer and Anvil deployment with basically two line of sight blocking walls on each end. So there's four walls that you could hide behind on the table. And my opponent this time again was Grey Knights and Marines. So I really thought that maybe these plasma suits, maybe they were going to do some good work. Maybe the drones, maybe the Riptides would do some good work. But unfortunately, for the first two shooting phases of the game, my opponent was hiding behind those walls, and so I couldn't get a shot off on him. I tried doing some stuff with the blast markers from the Riptides, but really that did not work. And I have to say that was a great move on his part, because if he had come out from behind those walls on Hammer and Anvil deployment, I really would have had a good shot at nailing those units. But sometimes the best move and the hardest move to make is not to do anything, not to be aggressive, to be defensive. And that's certainly something I struggle with my list, is not pushing, trying to hold myself back. And my opponent did a great job of that in this match, and I ended up losing by 1 point, based on primary, secondary, and tertiary objectives. It was a 5-4 score in his favor, and so I lost that one. But I thought that the score in that was really reflective of how good of a game it was. It was a tight game. It was a good game, and that's what I came to the tournament for. So that was great. Happy with that loss. And then the third game, I played against a Marines player. Brought a bunch of tac squads, and of course had some Grav Centurions. And the mission was the Relic with table quarters. And that one went a bit more roughly for my opponent than for me. I ended up tabling him after taking out his grav guns. There wasn't much he could do, so I walked away with a victory at the end of that game. So overall, like I said, the list performed roughly how I thought it would in terms of actual tabletop play. I just made a few bad choices in my first two games and had some unfortunate luck to boot. So yeah, what would I change in this list? Well, if I wanted to make it more competitive, I probably would drop the plasma suits and either break them into smaller one-man units to deep strike in and grab objectives, or basically add them to hit that guy, or basically add them to this other unit here and make some sort of Farsight bomb. Would probably be the better option there. Same thing with the marker drones. The marker drones really didn't do anything the entire game. Neither did these plasma suits. In fact, every time these plasma suits were on the board, they didn't get shot off the board, which is really what I thought was going to happen, but they ended up breaking and running off the table. So, partially indicative of poor positioning on my part, but also just kind of weird how that played out. The marker drones, when they were active, they added a few wounds here and there, but not anything that really made a difference in the end. Most of my opponents just ignored them unless it was convenient to just kind of take them out. So yeah, of course, the Riptides and the Crisis suits really did most of the heavy lifting, and the Ghost Heel was actually really great for holding the relic in that third mission. But other than that, again, added hits and some wounds, but not a game changer, because my opponents really didn't shoot at it that much, which was a good move on their part, just because, you know, I could always use his special ability to make them snapshot instead. So they decided that it wasn't worth even shooting at it, so he just kind of ran around and didn't do a whole bunch. Ran around and shot, of course. But yeah, so I think those are some of the changes that I'd make. I was really surprised that I ended up facing 2 Grey Knight armies, although maybe I shouldn't be considering the restrictions in format, but yeah. So that's how that went. I will say, overall, I had a lot of fun, and all my games were good games. We had a good time, and it was fun. Had a beer afterward, that type of thing. I did walk away with a first ever for me. I got best painted at the tournament, which was an awesome compliment. I hadn't gotten that before. Of course, I've gotten compliments on my army and my painting, but I have never actually had a award associated with it, so that was cool. All right, so like I said, in the future, if you guys are in the Midwest, or even if you're willing to travel, strongly recommend that you check out Con on the North next year. And yeah, let me know what you think in the comments below, and hopefully I'll see you around.